I've been really competitive, but not to the point of testing the moral compass, going too far. I just genuinely want us to be the best.
Welcome to the Resilient Recruiter Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Whitby, and today we're joined by Matthew Wragg.
I wanted to do a good job because I wanted to do a good job for me. I wanted to be known as someone who did a good job. I also made it be known that I love a challenge, whether that's cycling to Brussels, whether it's going down towers, whether it's building new service lines, whether it's taking on new geographies, whether it's just working out what we're doing wrong and then building us something that people then can see and they can imagine and then they can improve.
Matthew is the CEO of Gattaca PLC and has over 23 years of experience in the recruitment industry.
That's why I'm super passionate about being in this job now is I've made so many bloody mistakes over the years and therefore had lots of good success as well from the learnings of that. Someone who joins me now, I'm really vocal about it. If I can get my 23 years of experience into their head in 23 months, they're going to be really super successful.
He joined the company in 2001 as a trainee, and he's held a series of senior leadership roles before becoming CEO in 2022.
And that's very much at the heart of how I try to be as a CEO. How can I create an environment where people can go on proper career journeys, not just be good for a period of time, but really go on a career journey and purposely looking at how do I provide opportunities for people to learn new aspects to a role, be put out of their comfort zone.
Since then, he's overseen a broad organizational transformation, redefining the company's purpose, mission, vision, and values.
But I'm a big believer in everybody's voice is important. I use this a lot now in the business. I listen to everyone I catch up with, I walk around the business like 30 times a day, meet everyone for birthdays, have a lot of time with my team.
Matthew focuses on sustainable growth, strengthening culture, and improving employee engagement.
Don't shy away from being a truth teller. I want you to be a truth teller. Just don't be a dick about it, right? Think about how someone's going to hear it and try and do that in an empathetic way, but don't shy away from tackling it.
And he's particularly committed to supporting the STEM sectors and navigating Gattaca through the changing demands of the talent market from a long-term perspective. Matthew, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that we're sort of matching today in blue Oxford shirts, and that was not planned.
Not by design. On the hottest day of the year. If we can navigate through that, Mark, we've done very well.
So, look, based on your LinkedIn post this week, looks like you're just back from France. Tell me about this charity cycling challenge you were doing.
Yeah, I am just back from France and Portugal. It's been a busy week this week. It's been a good week out with customers, which is what I love doing. But next week, I start a two-stage challenge. The first one is to cycle from London to Amsterdam to Brussels to raise some money. And then I offer the business a chance to stitch me up every year or two and choose whatever they want as another challenge. A few years ago, they put me on top of an aeroplane and had to do a wing walk. This time I had to abseil down a 120 meter tower in my hometown. So I've got two challenges that I'm linking this year. Out for an early bike ride this morning to get a few miles in. That's my training done. Off we go. So.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love these challenges. What's the charity that you're cycling to raise money for?
So there's two, and I'm sure we'll touch on one. I had a bit of a regrettable moment a few years ago where I chickened out of cycling from London to Paris with my good mate, who unfortunately is now no longer with us. So I didn't join him. I didn't get those memories spending time with him, but I also didn't raise some money for leukemia care. So this time I'm sharing it between that and about 18 months ago, my daughter was diagnosed with scoliosis, which is never nice for a kid or family to go through. So we're trying to raise some money for scoliosis research, which helps improve the treatment, just make it a little bit, hopefully, nicer experience for kids when they're going through that. So yeah, two charities this time, hence two challenges. We've called it Willpower and Willpower, which my daughter gives me grief for because I can't quite say it properly, but I'm blaming that on my hay fever at the moment and sounding like I'm smoking 100 a day when I promise everyone I don't touch them. So there you go.
Brilliant. Well, that sounds like two fantastic causes. Am I right that you recently had your knee replaced or something?
Yeah, I've A lot of rebuilding. So yeah, all the nothing, as I keep saying, nothing mechanical. It's all the hydraulics. So yeah, just too much football, too many marathons, too many injuries over the year. And then yeah, about 2 years ago, decided to bring back a works football tournament and decided we put an old boys team together, and I was going to show all these young whippersnappers what a good footballer I was. To my wife's advice, she said I shouldn't. I lasted 5 minutes. My knee came out. It wouldn't go back in again for 4 weeks, and we had to have
Oh no.
a lot of work redone. So yeah, it took me a long time. I wasn't very good with physio, so I just didn't do a lot other than work and drink a bit of wine. So it's taken me to have a challenge like this to get back out there and get it properly repaired. So yeah, it's been good.
So who knew that wine is not a cure for damaged knee ligaments?
Yeah.
So listen, how did you get into recruiting in the first place?
Yeah, it's one of those classes, didn't know what it was. I studied architecture at university. The family had a big engineering business, which I was probably tipped to take on, and decided that I was not good enough at architecture and loved my dad, but couldn't work with him. So decided to go into other roles. I was working on telecom sales, and my housemate, and I wasn't really enjoying it, wasn't earning a lot of money, wasn't particularly having any kind of development. And my housemate at the time was working in recruitment, was having a great time, getting loads of development. And I was like, well, that looks good. So yeah, applied, didn't know really what I was applying for, but just found a really lovely home. Like the company's just, from day one, you just went, this has got a great feel to it. And since then, it's just been, 12, 13 different jobs in the organization, and taking us from a small, local, regional outfit, and over 20 plus years, we became a big listed international outfit, which I can take no credit for. It was a great team. I was just a junior when that was going on the journey, but it's been an exciting one for the organization.
It's cool that you're still with the same company you joined
Yeah.
all those years ago.
Yeah.
And because that's quite unusual in recruitment. What do you attribute that to? Why have you stuck around, and how do you try and create that kind of staff retention and engagement under your leadership?
It's a question I get a lot, actually, but never with a, oh, it's amazing. It's always a, why have you? And I'm always like, well, why wouldn't I? I've never stopped learning. I've had a whole range of opportunities within that. We're a really nice proposition in that we're in the world of staffing. We're one of the bigger outfits in the world. But actually, if you look at us as a business, we're under 500 people. We're a medium-sized business. So you get to do all the various different things around complexity of international or different service lines, from recruitment to outsourcing to engineering delivery. So we've got multiple services, multiple geographical challenges in a great environment. So I think I've probably had 10 days in 20 odd years where I've woken up and thought, I don't want to go to work. That's a really good ratio. So
Definitely.
I've never really been tempted. Obviously, I'm well networked in the market. I know a lot of the market. But yeah, when you've found a really great place, and I come from family business stock. Like very early doors, I would have used the language around feeling so passionate about, this is my team, and this is how do I make my team as good as I possibly can. And I had that probably from day one, maybe day 366, once you kind of worked out what recruitment is. But yeah, and that's still there now. And that's very much at the heart of how I try to be as a CEO. How can I create an environment where people can go on proper career journeys, not have a job for a period of time, or not just be good for a period of time, but really go on a career journey and purposely looking at, how do I provide opportunities for people to learn new aspects to a role, be put out of their comfort zone. And we're big enough to be able to do that, which is great. And that's what's kept me. Great people, great offering, and love doing a great job for our customers.
So it sounds like a combination of creating lots of opportunities for people to grow, to keep learning, to develop their careers, and providing the right culture and environment. I'm interested. It's not very often that I interview the CEO of a publicly listed company. Most of our guests tend to be owners and CEOs of smaller firms. But I was interested that you're in the notes that you sent me in preparation for this, you very much are focused on sustainability and long-term success. And like you you would assume when you're working for a PLC that it tends to be shorter term shareholder, share price driven. How do you reconcile the dynamics of working at PLC and balancing the interests of shareholders with the long-term goals of the company?
Yeah, I think it's certainly in our industry that there aren't that many listed companies. And if you took it as a quantum of the entire market, it'll be a decimal point of a percentage, and that is so. There aren't many. Therefore, I think the optics normally are, oh, that must be really corporate, really, really hard nosed, really, really aggressive, all about this week rather than not going to be here in a few years. I've been here for 20 odd years. I hope I'm here for a lot longer. For me, it feels more like a long-term sustainable family business, which has shareholders. And I think that's quite a big difference. Our founder is still our biggest shareholder. He built the business. It was going almost 20 years, probably, about 20 years before it listed. He's very proud of what we are. So we've always had a very strong moral and cultural anchor. And that is something I think in the 3 years, when you said it's 2022, I was like, God, I'm certainly through the honeymoon period now. That's certainly over the last 3 years. What I think I've brought back is just a culture of trying to do our best, looking after everybody, being very authentic, and genuinely caring. And I'm sure most people in our market, when you hear PLC, it's very, very easy to throw sticks and stones and assume it's that corporate world. But we have governance. Yes, we've got shareholders. Yes, we've got to be able to share everything with everyone. And for me, I just see them as great assets because that means we've got a really well-run business. And I think my investors, what they want is success, and they want me to deliver on what I've promised them. And we're 6 updates in now to the shareholder community since I took over, and we've done absolutely everything we said we were going to do and a little bit more each and every time. And that's, I think, what they would want. And I'm very vocal with them, actually, that I have 4 stakeholders. My number one stakeholder it's my staff, it's my colleagues, because if I have really great, engaged, career motivated staff, then I have happy clients and successful clients because they're working with some real great superstars. And if I have great clients, I've got great career opportunities, which means I've got great candidates because they know they can go on a real great career journey, whether it's permanent or contract, and various different ways. And if all those are very happy, I should have happy shareholders. And I think if you get that order wrong, and certainly if you just put your shareholders at number one, you will lose. And we have done that. We've had some difficult years as a group, but you don't exist for 40 years and not have some tough times. But we have absolutely sometimes got that priority wrong, and not probably through design, but through circumstance. And if things aren't quite going, then more pressure comes from that source, and you do need to react, and it takes a little while to work out what that does to your business. So right now, we've got great engagement despite a really tough market. In fact, we've got record engagement, and our number one, our number 2, and our number 3 customers are quite happy. And hey, number 4 customers, nearly every stock market is a little bit bonkers at the moment. So I don't think any of them are happy in any guys, but we're at least delivering our promises to them.
Cool. All right. Good answer. That makes a lot of sense. Look, I want to get into the turning around of the business and your focus on culture. Before we do that, though, for any listeners who they're maybe not the business owner, but they are ambitious and they want to grow and develop, what advice would you give? Because you've had a fantastic career at Gattaca and gone from trainee to CEO. What do you think were the lessons that from that career journey that could be applied by others?
Hey, who am I to say it? Everyone has their own path. I think my personal experience was in an organization which was both growing and had difficult times. I didn't apply for 13 different jobs over the 20 odd years. I just made sure people knew that my personal brand was really important to me. I'd wholly admit, probably in the first sort of 5 to 10 years of my career, that was probably really important to me, to the point where I might have said too competitive, a little bit arrogant, maybe. I don't know. It certainly may have been accused of that at times. But as you mature, you go through that. But certainly people knew I wanted to do a good job because I wanted to do a good job for me. I wanted to be known as someone who did a good job. I also made it be known that I love a challenge, whether that's cycling to Brussels, whether it's going down towers, whether it's building new service lines, whether it's taking on new geographies, whether it's just working out what we're doing wrong and then building us something that people then can see and they can imagine and then they can improve. I've just always liked that challenge. I think for my predecessors for the last sort of 15 odd years building up to that, I was probably a member within the team where they're like, well, we can throw something at Raggy and he'd really give it his best shot. And for me, that's what I look for. I look for people who are coachable, who are really ambitious, but not ambitious to the detriment of the wider team. It's about wanting everyone to go forward. So behaviours have been really key, and I'd hope the majority of the time. I certainly know there's times in my career where I look back and I have a little wince and go, come on, was your accountability as high as it could have been? Did you coast for a few months then? Did you really go into the detail on that? Did you really hold that conversation as well as you could have done? And over 20 odd years, clearly there's some of those moments where you go, oh, that's a bit icky. But if you average it all out, I think most of the time it would have been known as someone who just wanted to do a good job, wanted to provide and help people also do a good job, and wanted us to be a winning team. And yeah, that's what I look for. It's why behaviours has been a critical part of our launch of our performance management and our culture guide when we first started. It was to be really explicit, not just a value and throw it on the wall and be done with it, but really explicit of really good and bad examples, things I definitely didn't want to see from me or anyone in the business, and things that actually I thought I really want to see, and be really explicit about that to help everyone else manage each other, challenge each other, call out each other.
Amazing. So I'd love to talk about the culture guide, the performance management in a sec. Let me just ask a few follow-up questions. So when you talk about personal brand, you mean internally with your colleagues, right? Like based on their perception of you and based on your behaviors, you taking on challenges, you like being competitive, that sort of thing. Is that what you mean by personal
I
brand?
wouldn't
Or
say just internally. And hey, I come from a family-run business. Work, family life, friendship, for me, it's all one pot. So there isn't a divide between, there isn't a different conversation to have inside my business to the conversation I would have with my clients, to the ones I would have with my shareholders, to the ones I'd have with my wife. They are all the same conversation. And actually for me, that means it's really authentic. The personal brand, and I used to do it when I was an early consultant in the early days. I used to be really explicit to clients as to, I really, really want to do a good job on this. Not necessarily for you. Yeah, I'd love you to be happy. But actually, I know if I do a good job for you, 3 of your colleagues will be impressed by that and I'll get more opportunities. Or if I get these final 2 placements done, that's my minimum criteria in order to be able to justify being asked for a promotion. So I was very quick to give customers of any status leverage over to me. Why am I really doing it? It's not because I really, really, really want just to do it for free to help you because I'm that lovely a person. No one is that lovely a person. So yes, I cared. Yes, I wanted them to think nicely of me. But I've always been explicit of, if I do this well, there is upside for me too. And I think that's a positive thing, of really explaining to people how important it is to me, not just pretending it's all about one other community. It's about the collective.
great, that makes sense. And then you said you were very competitive, but again, sometimes the biggest billers in the company are not the ones with the most leadership potential because they can be a bit selfish rather than thinking about their team or the wider company. So how do you balance being super competitive but also being a great team player?
Yeah, that's where I can probably, for on a few times in my life, say it with pride that I definitely wasn't our biggest biller. I did all right, but I certainly wasn't. I wasn't our number one, number two from a billing point of view. And for me, a lot of that was because I was more interested in how we collectively sold and how we won bigger programs. And I played a really proactive role in building out our workforce solutions business. And when I did that, I used to, over a number of months and years, you go and win these major accounts of hundreds of contractors, kind of, I don't know, 20, 40, 50 million revenue a year type opportunities. And I was winning them, but I wanted to win. I then wanted, there wasn't really anything in it for me other than a badge on my arm. And then other teams in the business got those opportunities. And I knew those teams would be the best teams at then delivering them and giving those customers a great service. So for me, it's always, I've been really competitive, but not to the point of um, testing the moral compass, going too far. I just genuinely want us to be the best. And if we're not, I'm really, really comfortable going, okay, that's cool. How do we take the learning? Why is that? Okay, let's understand that. I think it helps. My sister's a really smart psychologist. So I've been brought up with lots of, we call them our fat chats. I'm really digging into the why. And therefore, I'm really cognizant that sometimes you're just not right. And sometimes it's not right. But understanding that and appreciating it and seeing that, that's really powerful. So yeah, never competitive to the point of selfishness, but very competitive to the point of I love winning. Equally at the same point when we lose, I don't get down about it. It's some of my worst moments of, I don't know, 30, 40 million pound deals that we should have won, which we didn't. And I'm very quick at shaking myself up. I go, right, we're probably within 10 minutes. Cool. What are we going to do about that then? What bandwidth has that given me? How are we going to learn? One of my favorite wins we ever got came on the back of a loss, and literally within half an hour, it's brilliant. I understand. I'm going to come and see you every month for the next 12 months and build a relationship. And I'd love to have your business in a year's time. And we got that, and we kept that for years. So taking the loss for what it is and truly understanding it and not getting negative about it, and then seeing that as an opportunity to show a different side. So yeah, there's always people measure that.
This is super interesting. Can we drill down on this a little bit more? What can you talk about that losing that opportunity, and then let's break down how that in your mind led to, like, what you learned from that and how that led to more wins down the
Yeah,
road.
for me, it's a really good example of be outwardly focused, not inwardly focused. The opportunity, I won't name a brand, famous brand, we were really good for it. We knew we were very, very good at the skill sets, very good at the market, very good at the service line, good geography. It was just sweet spot. It was, of course, we're really good for it. But to the point we didn't, and it was earlier in my career as a kind of central sales head, we didn't spend enough time getting to know the customer. So actually, when we put our bid in and we did our presentation, we were like, we're so good and we really want this brand. And actually, we went pretty cheap in order to get it. So we were like, we're perfect, it's right, we're cheap. It was, of course, we're going to win. And we didn't. And they gave it to a competitor who were like, no, that makes no sense. Like, didn't understand it. Not even in that sector. Why have they done that? Probably because that competitor listened to them a little bit more. So we made it then I made it my mission to go spend time with them, ask for a small opportunity of something away from that program to prove some of the language, properly understand them. And a year later, what they had bought wasn't working. So they came back out to market it, and we won it. And we won it at 70% higher price than I originally bid for it a year ago. But we won at a 70% higher price because I really understood this time what they actually thought they needed and what they really needed, and how I had to build a very exclusive service around it. So it was a great learning for me, is to never assume, like really go and have the tough conversation with a customer, and really spend time getting to know them. And then you can really articulate what they need. And we've had the learnings from that became norm. But then you forget, and we had a series of really great wins over a number of years. And I remember sitting on, I can't remember the name of the motorway, but the equivalent of the M25 going around Paris on my BlackBerry, reading a bid for an opportunity that I've been shaping for maybe 6 months, and we should absolutely win it. But instead of spending the 3 days of hard yards working on that bid with my bid team, I was invited by another customer to go to Paris for a supplier event. And I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be exciting. Went out there, and then I was reading the bid on my BlackBerry, and it had to go in a few hours, and it just missed it because I knew the opportunity, I knew the customer, and I hadn't put the time in. with my team to really help then translate that. And we didn't win it. We didn't even get shortlisted. We didn't deserve to get shortlisted. Now that's horrible. I ended up phoning up my CEO who I reported to at the time and said, can you help me out? Can you look at it? Because I've mucked up. And he was like, well, Matt, that was £30 million that was definitely coming in. I was like, I know. And you've got to own that. Now, the learnings again from that probably set us off on another series of really good opportunity conversions because we were relentless on going, what's the 90% focus? Don't get distracted by the shiny thing. Focus on what really, really matters. So yeah, those learnings that you collect over a number of years, and that's why I'm super passionate about being in this job now, is I've made so many bloody mistakes over the years, and therefore had lots of good success as well from the learnings of that. I'm super keen. Someone who joins me now, I'm really vocal about it. If I can get my 23 years experience into their head in 23 months, they're going to be really super successful. Now, for some of that, they've actually got to go and make the mistakes themselves, but you can also orchestrate some of that. So for me, that's why I'm really excited about this next phase our group's going into, because we've got loads of great people who have made mistakes and successes who are so passionate about how do we really go and become world class. So yeah.
Awesome. So, using this as a case study, the 30 million pound missed opportunity, I guess you went quickly, kind of glossed through like that you bounced back quickly from things, but I would love to understand that a bit more detail, like, because you said like often within half an hour, you've shaken yourself off and you're now looking for the learnings and then how can we improve? But could you elaborate in a little more detail, like what, from a mindset point of view, that's a huge disappointment, and you're feeling bad because you dropped the ball on something that was important. What's the thought process, first of all, to get yourself back into a productive frame of mind, and then what changes or improvements did you make to the sales process so that we get better and better, and use those mistakes as learning opportunities?
Yeah, there's a bit in there that's trying to. I think the biggest bit, and it wouldn't have been just by design. I do lots of things instinctively. There's not some big master plan, but I'm really open. I like communicating. I have no problems with everybody. Know my vulnerabilities. So I think the biggest learning on it, whenever we did have a loss, I never once said it was a price thing. It always gets loaded as price. I fucked up. Actually, that honesty around what did I do wrong resonates, I think, with a business far more than let's try and spin it in a slightly different way. And maybe we won't get to, and they got bought by an American company, so maybe it wouldn't be. I fucked up. So let's own it. How did I muck up? Well, sorry, shouldn't be swearing.
No, it's all right. This podcast, we're used to.
It's for the staffing market. We'll be fine. Own it. And then people can really resonate with that far more than they can with the kind of placating of it and don't worry. So own it. And I actually get super excited from the moment there's been a mistake. My brain does. I'm dyslexic. I've got a busy brain, constantly going. My brain very quickly jumps to, cool, what was the mistake? I was a kid maybe in class when if a window got broken, my face would go even redder. I'd feel guilty even if it wasn't me. So whenever there's a mistake anywhere in my business or in my ecosystem alive, my default now is still to go, what did I do wrong somewhere along the cycle, which could have prevented that, could have stopped it. If my daughter's fallen over, maybe I should have shouted as she ran around the corner and say, go slowly. I will instantly jump to what did I do wrong? And not from a fear, not from a stress management, not from a worry, but is there a learning for me in there? So I think for any of our losses, whether they're small ones, like sometimes it's, I just said the wrong thing to someone who works for me. I could have handled that better. By the time they probably walked out of the room, I've already noted that as could have done that better. And more often than not, probably within a few hours, called them up and said, I could have done that better. And a lot of times they go, Matt, I didn't even notice. But I noticed. So for me, it's that self-reflectiveness. I think, hey, in any sales environment, you can dwell on the losses as long as you learn from them. There's always more opportunity. And there's some customers we work with now who are really great partners of ours who have point blank told me they'd never want to work with me or my business because they didn't like us. And they're now one of our biggest partners. And so you always get the chance that if you're true to yourself, if you're really authentic, the opportunity to truly show who you are will come back again. I've made loads of mistakes, but none of them have ever been from malice. They've just been from incompetence. Is it someone was telling me about Hanlon's razor, which I'd never heard of before, but it's never a mistake. Incompetence for malice. It's like, I just make mistakes. It's not because I got any evil intent. I didn't mean to drop the ball. I just made a mistake. So can I learn from that? Can I not make that same mistake again? So yeah, and that has fed. I've always surrounded myself with really smart people, far smarter, far more organized than I. And they would take all that, pick out the bones of it and go, well, what could we have done along the way to help the salesperson not make that mistake? What should our new process be to make sure we're just checking, is this right for you to go to Paris this time, Matt, or should you be sat here with us? So they would put in checks and balances along the way just so we didn't fall into those traps again.
Interesting. That's awesome, Matthew. I'd love to hear about the turnaround because I believe that you orchestrated or were pivotal to an organizational transformation and the focus on culture and values and that kind of thing. Could you walk me through that?
Yeah. Hey, my predecessor, myself and CFO succeeded our predecessors at the same time. We internally and Wedmark would get congratulated with a turnaround. Those guys had to do some awfully heavy lifting. They had to take us through global restructure, operation restructure, 72 tech stacks down to 2, complete governance change, some M&A completion. So they had done some horrendously tough IR35 in the UK come through COVID. They had done some horrendously tough heavy lifting, which was required. Some of it was by design, some of it's reactive. Oliver and I took over about a year after COVID, 2 years after COVID actually, and we were coming out of new systems in place, 35 starting to bed down, but business performance was poor. We were a 500 million revenue business not making profit. Now that's not ideal. But that wasn't a symptom to one thing. There had been a whole range of things building up, including COVID and market changes. So really, when we took over, a lot of it was about rebuilding confidence. We'd had a good number of years. As a business, we'd spent 20 odd years just never failing, just darlings in the stock market, always growing. No one really even had to worry about what budget was because you always smashed that. It was just go, 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 go. We'd made some inorganic growth activities, which on paper were fine. Businesses were great. We just didn't integrate them as well as we could have done, and therefore you lose the value of them. We'd gone through some other changes, and we'd lost our way a little bit. We'd become quite a big company, 1,000 people, 800 million, and we became a bit too corporate, and we were losing our people focus and a bit of our personality. So very early doors, I was really keen to literally shock the business. So loads of simple things. Again, they weren't planned, but in my first columns when it got announced that's in the role, tiny little things. So removed all offices. So there was no one in the business had an office, and it definitely wasn't, I used to call it the squash courts of the exec suite. Communications have massively increased, and I promised the business they would hear from me every single Monday about how last week was, what's happening this week, and what I thought was good. And 3 years in, we've missed 1 week, and we do a 5 to 8 minute video every Monday of who's done a great job, what's happening. We made it clear that all leaders will have a part of their pay will be based on staff engagement. And I announced that to the staff at the same time as I announced it to leaders at the same time I thought about it. It was very instinctive. So we got really lucky with little bits. And the reality is, people says it takes about 2 to 3 years to kind of develop a culture. I think we were just releasing ours. We got there in about 6 months. We were just loosening the shackles, letting everyone relax a little bit. I think after about 6 months, people realized it was real. It probably took us about 18 months, 2 years for people to find the sides of everything now because they'd stopped kind of pushing for the ambition and the innovation. And a lot of it was just comms, communication, We developed a DNA document which really took our values into principles, and the principles into challenge and champion behaviors. So we were being really overt, and I had a great team around me who were building all that. And some of that inspiration came, if your audience haven't seen the Netflix Culture Playbook, it's a great, go on YouTube, watch it. It's got some really nice language around, we want people to be here. And if you don't want to be here, that's fine, but don't hold us back. And we were just really overt with direct language in a positive way to encourage people to own it. That integrated into a new quarterly performance management program, which everybody in the world does at the same time. Every quarter, I see everybody's results, and it's not saying you're a top performer because you're an FI. It's a combination of sales performance, effort, and behaviors. And if your behaviors are right, you cannot top score. It's just not possible. And it forms part of the performance management. It forms part of the career development, and it forms part of us keeping each other intact. So that has made it far more authentic, I think. People feeling that they can be themselves. Where I'm down to today, I just had a look at, I use Workday, the Peakon product for staff engagement. Every 4 weeks, a new question set goes out. So I get a pulse check every month around how the business is doing. We shifted that from, it was about 58% of the business were detractors. About 15% were promoters. Today, I'm sat at 58% of promoters, and I've got 23 people, don't know who they are, but I know there's 23 people in my business, which are still not fully happy. And every quarter, I put up a screen, I show it, and I make it really clear. I want to know why and how I can help that and how can I improve that. Because I believe it's a leader's job to make everyone as successful as they possibly can be.
Amazing. Could you repeat the name of the tool that you're using for the staff engagement?
It's Peakon, but it's on the Workday platform. So Workday brought Peakon a few days ago, and it's a few years ago, sorry. It's great product, standard question set, it benchmarks. So what's been exciting for us to see over the last 12 months is our engagement has continued to increase month on month over the last 12 months. But the market, it gives you a market benchmark, which isn't just a recruitment market, it's other professional service business. That's been declining as the world has gone into a bit of turmoil. There's been economic uncertainty, political unrest. Actually, genuinely, employees' engagement is lower and lower and lower because there's a level of uncertainty. So whilst that's been happening, we've still continued to go. So actually, we've gone from way behind the benchmark to now we're tracking ahead, which again, I'll go on there, grab myself a glass of wine. There's a theme here, or two, and get in trouble with Mrs. Wragg because I'll stay up until 3 hours in the morning or jump on it at 5 o'clock in the morning without the wine and just respond to every single comment. Certainly the negative ones, and then everyone else gets some level of acknowledgement just to help people understand what I'm thinking. Because I a lot of the times I've learned people are coming up with their version of what they think is happening. And it's a really great platform for me to go, no, I understand why you think that, but here's the reality. And just really encourage people to ask the question, because I'd rather people were not working in a state of paralysis or fear. Just ask me, because there's nothing we're doing with any malice at all. So if you think there is, we've either not communicated it correctly or you're not understanding it correctly. So just shout and I'll come and explain it properly to you. And that's really helped, I think.
This is amazing. How often are you doing this?
Every month. So we get about, I think yesterday I saw, we launched that 2 weeks ago. It's about 700 comments on it so far in this one. It's generally about 1,000 comments a month. And certainly, every detractor, I'll make sure, every negative comment, I'll make sure I'm on. I do start, I start with the negatives. It's like put the hard hat on, then you can filter it and look at the negatives. And I work through that and I sit there and go, I'm so crap at my job. What am I doing wrong? This person doesn't understand that. I've not said this. That's a problem I can't fix yet. And then I work myself to the far bigger part of, this is great. I love it. I'm here for a career, not a job. My manager's fantastic. And it's actually, it's cathartic to do, but I'm a big believer in everybody's voice is important. And actually, I use this a lot now in my business. I listen to everyone I catch up with, walk around the business like 30 times a day, meet everyone for birthdays, have a lot of time with my team. The idea of that is not so I can do everything they want me to do. And they all get asked, what would you love me to do? But it does, I know now when I get to the big decisions, and normally there's a pretty big decision every week or two that I need to make. And it may not feel like something big, but actually it's a moral compass one, or it's a social impact one. I know the more people I speak to engage and the more comments I read and everything more I digest, when it comes to those big decisions, I can trust my instincts more. And I'll make the decision based on what I feel is right. But I know I'll also be really cognizant about, but I know that's really going to annoy a community in my business. And I need to make sure I go and spend some more time with them to really explain what I've done and why. So it's not so you can follow everyone, because you have to be a leader, but it is to help me be as informed as possible, so I can trust my instincts. So I find it brilliant.
Am I right that the comments are anonymous, but you're still responding? So you don't know who you're responding to specifically,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
okay.
You can tell when I'm on to my second glass of wine in my responses. And sometimes sometimes the comments are really difficult. And it's I love my business, but someone doesn't love it. And they work here, and it's my job to make them love it. And I'm failing, and that's really difficult. And I'm very open with that. And other times you get a really nice comment on there. I go, I don't know, we like Matt's videos and he keeps us informed and comes around and nicks our sweets all the time. And that's really good. And I'll take the mickey out myself and go, yeah, cool. Hope you done F it up soon. And so I'm just using it in a non-corporate way, also almost like a social media platform, to engage with everyone without knowing who they are. And of course, there'll be some people on there who are having bad moments in their life or aren't happy in their job, who it's an opportunity to vent. And I won't try and have the last word, but I'll at least share my view. And if they want to digest that, great. If they don't, that's up to them as well.
This is really valuable, Matt. And especially the idea of whether something is a mistake or it's a malice in a small business. So I understand you've got how many employees now?
About 400.
500?
Yeah.
400. Okay. So this platform sounds fantastic for really, and I want to get to the other comms in a second, but in a small business, it's not, I don't know if it's practical to do the anonymous
Well, you know,
feedback, because you're going to know who.
Tone of voice, what circumstances.
Exactly.
Happened. Yeah.
So how would you replicate the same impact in a smaller business?
Yeah. I'd try something actually. I think we've successfully built a business of multiple tribes. I like tribes. So what I do, which I would recommend for other business owners, we do it collectively, but I also do it locally, is just do a really informal Q&A. And I did one literally last week to a load of our managers. They get to send in questions either anonymous or not in advance, or they can ask me anything at the event. And it very quickly goes into what do people really want to know. And your point, the best thing I've learned in the last 2 years actually came from my daughter's school teacher. She was having a bit of a tough time at school, felt she was being bullied by one of the other girls. And he gave her some amazing advice. And I was like, oh my God, why didn't someone tell me this? So I'm meant to be this leader, and I didn't even. She was like, I'm being bullied. She's being horrible. She doesn't like me. And he was like, you don't know that. You feel she's trying to bully you. You feel she doesn't like you. That is real because you feel it, but it's not fact. It's real for you, but it may not be factual. And I think a lot of the time in business, people feel that something is done with malice, but the intent was never there. And actually, if you can find a platform to have a more genuine conversation, go, this is how it's made me feel, 99 times out of 100, someone will go, oh my God, no, that's not how I meant it. What I was meaning was this. But if you don't have those kind of intervention conversations, then it's just a feeling which builds up and feelings become fact over time because people are looking for the issue or for the validation. So I would do, and I do it, and I did it for all my international offices. I used to run international and go around the world, and every time I'd start with an hour of open Q&A. And I'm literally not going to move until everyone's asked at least one question. And we will go around and eventually you get to the real question that they want to ask because their bravery's built up. But actually, I knew that was my way of going, cool, I understand now what you want to hear rather than what I want to say. So in a small business, I would really encourage that. And hey, I've been really proactive looking at meeting teams, looking at hiring, looking at M&A. I've probably got to know the SME market of my industry better over the last 2 years than I've ever known, because I've been so in my business and in my market. I've not been in the sector. The amount of feedback I get from people around, well, yeah, but my founder or my CEO just sits in the office and doesn't talk to us. Or, yeah, we've just got to do what we said. Now, that control and command doesn't have to be that hierarchical dictator, but it's also going to be authentic. If that's just who you are, don't try and change your style because you'll trip yourself up. But I think in a smaller business, you can get to that level of honesty and authenticity. You've got to be brave enough to go, this is going to hurt. And I've got to be all right with what anyone says, because if they feel it, it's fact. And if it's fact for them, then it's going to be slowing them down. And if it's going to be slowing them down, they're not going to be as successful. And if they're not as successful, you as a business leader are not successful. So even if you don't buy into it from a communication style, buy into it from an economic style. If you do that, you'll have more engaged workforce and you'll be more productive and you'll be more successful. So yeah, that would be a recommendation. You better ask a yes/no question next, Mark, because I don't think I've given a short answer yet.
Well, I'm not big on yes/no questions, but here's one. So this initial kind of, when you took the reins, you said you removed offices. Do you mean that everyone went remote, or just that the senior leaders didn't have their own separate closed door?
We got rid of the glass offices within the office block. So literally. There's a big group of us that had always had offices for a long time. I just wanted myself and my leadership team to be fully connected with what we do. And I felt we'd become all a bit too removed from actually what we do as a business. So one mechanism from it was to do that. And I was also really stupid paranoid as being a trainee and I think I was a cultural character in the group. I also had a big chunk of fear that I was going to get lost and become lonely and become this lonely CEO that wasn't connected. So really early doors, I just looked at what are all the levers I could pull to make sure I'm in with the team, so I can hear everything and I can learn by osmosis, because that's the way I had been successful before and I didn't want to lose it when becoming the CEO.
That makes sense. And then I love the Monday video update. Our COO, Lisa, actually does an update on a Friday. She does it via Slack, and she records a voice note, which is like a weekly roundup. And I just love it. And I think everyone else loves it too, like highlighting the successes of the week. And she calls out specific people, what they've contributed that week. And it's just a really nice way of people, because especially we are a fully remote team, and it kind of connects everyone together as in the shared vision. You mentioned leaders' compensation is partly tied to staff engagement. How does that actually work?
So we use a Peacom product, and then we have the prior year performance, and we set should it maintain at that level? Should it increase? And then at the end of year, we look at how that's performed, and then we take the final 3-month average, and that is 10% of their reward. So it's a decent amount of their reward, and it encourages people. Yeah, I'm sure when any market is booming, it's easier to keep people engaged, but it's making sure when it's really, really tough, we are putting the hard yards in to still have the high level of engagement. So yeah, it's one of my non-negotiables now. I think 3 years in, I could argue I've got great engagement now. The business is in a good place. The leaders are really focused on what they should be doing. I could easily replace that now and put something else in. But for me, it's one of my non-negotiables, because the moment you do that, I'm sending a signal to hundreds of people to say suddenly your engagement isn't as important to me as it was. And it is. And it will always be important to me. So that's my every time anyone says, can we swap it? It's a very, very short conversation.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I like it's working for you. Let's keep keep that in place, right? Then I'd like to spend most of the rest of our time together talking about the DNA deck. You said there's values that then translate to principles that translate to behaviors. Did I get that right?
Yeah. So we went for an exercise as we came out of COVID. We had a moment which was brilliant for our group. It was a real turning moment. My predecessor set us the challenge of what's our sales strategy, and myself and a few people from the group came up with a a program called Changing Up the Game, and it was flipping ourselves on its
Sorry,
head,
could you repeat?
changing it up the
Changing
game.
up the game.
And it was about, we were in the midst of COVID. What the hell are we going to do from a sales strategy? So we really looked at our network and went, how can we help? We love helping people. So we flipped on its head and we came up with various mechanisms of how many of our clients can we connect to help them with opportunity, fiscal support, whatever it might be. How many can we go and raise a shed load of money for charity, which is helping people who become economically challenged from COVID. And then the biggest one, which was, I wasn't expecting it to have the impact, but it was actually the most powerful one, was because we've been in STEM, there's not many software engineers who are unemployed. Most of them were fully employed and you're moving between jobs and assignments. But COVID had impacted people. So we're like, actually, there's some really amazing technologists and engineers who are out of work now. Can we go and help? And I did some back of the fag packet maths and worked out that 37 years we'd been around, we'd probably only helped about 1,000 unemployed people back to work, because most of the people that we'd supported were in assignments. And actually, if we're really honest, if you go back to when I first started recruitment, if you sent the CV of someone who was unemployed to a hiring manager, they didn't want to know, because if they weren't good enough for someone else, they weren't good enough for them. And that was real. And we flipped that on its head and went, well, can we help unemployed people? And we really started to speak to customers about, look, you've got 4 options, but Margaret hasn't got a job or Bill hasn't got a job. We really would like you to interview them only. And if they're suitable, we think morally that would be really good if you took them. And we set our goal of, could we help 1,000 unemployed people get back into work? And the business really got behind it. And we shot to 2,000 in no time. And it was one of those bits of, when we unite around a really good common purpose, we're phenomenal. So we then went off on a program of design our purpose, our vision, our mission, and our values. And that was all good, and it was all sensible narrative, and we've still got it today. But my challenge with it was, when we talked about values, it was someone's version of a word fun could be a million different things.
Exactly. This is a challenge with values, right? By the way, if people want to see the purpose, vision, mission, values, it's at gattacaplc.com and go to About Us. So yeah, this is the challenge with values, is the same word has a different interpretation for every human, right? So what does that mean? And how does that inform the way that we operate, the way we behave to each other, to our customers? So how did you actually go from there?
I put some really great Gattaca brains on it, to which I can take no credit. We came up with we saw the Netflix one. We went, there's more we can do. There's definitely more we can do. And then we had people from HR and marketing came together for a period of time. We went through various different versions of it, and we just got these very nice sayings, which end up being, well, actually, yeah, they're things we truly believe in, and people can imagine that. So some of the principles would be a bit like some of my comments earlier. We encourage people to be brave enough to tell the truth, but kind enough to do it in the right way. So it's like, don't shy away from being a truth teller. I want you to be a truth teller. Just don't be a dick about it, right? Think about how someone's going to hear it and try and do that in an empathetic way, but don't shy away from tackling it. And then that turned into specific behaviors around, don't accept if someone's not doing that. So it gave everyone a kind of a grid around, okay, well, that's what you really mean. So fun doesn't, one person's fun maybe, I just want to come in and don't be disturbed by anyone, and I just want to get my job done and get out without any disturbance. That's cool. Someone else's fun is, I want to have loads of banter all the time, or I want to go down the pub. They're completely polar opposites. And what we meant by fun was actually anyone can feel comfortable. So there aren't silos of pockets of territorial behaviors. And actually, that's probably been the one which has taken the longest to break down and call out and develop people's understanding. I've got staff ranging from 80 to 60 something in my business. I've got multiple nationalities, lots of different cultures in there, actually really breaking down and getting to the point of going, guys, this is what being inclusive is. This is what making it safe for people. And we're forever going to have, we'll never be perfect because people are people and they will make a mistake. But what I love is when there's a mistake, we never ignore it. And we really tackle it. We make really tough decisions around, okay, is that a one-way door action, or is it a two-way door action that someone can have learned from and improve, and be vocal about that and continue. And over time, what we're doing is we're becoming more cohesive. I'm not trying to make everyone the same. I love everybody's individual personality, but again, something I talk about a lot to bring it to life for people is I've got a 12-year-old daughter. I love her to bits. I talk her about a lot. She comes into the business a lot. She has done since she's a baby. At some point, she might turn around to me and say, Dad, I really want to go work at Gattaca. And if there's any part of me which says it's not safe, it's not rewarding, it's not challenging, it's not good for you, I've definitely failed in my job. Absolutely failed in my job. And if people can't understand the environment that we want, is that actually anyone's child could come into there at some point and go, yeah, it doesn't have to be easy. We don't have to helicopter parent, but actually it's got to be respectful. It's got to be challenging. It's got to be developing. It's got to be fun. You've got to be able to go and have a laugh and not take yourself too seriously, but not to the detriment of someone else's feelings. So that for me is a real nice beacon, which keeps me focused on how do we continue to improve as an organization.
This is awesome. And I've seen your DNA deck and it's really, really detailed, which is nice. So it's not, it gives examples. It gives like anyone going through that would understand what you mean by fun, what you mean by trust, professional, ambition. But then there's the paper that people may have seen a presentation, but then there's the day-to-day. You mentioned that the performance management report combines sales effort and behavior. Could you say a little bit more about that? How you measure those things, and then how it affects career development?
Yeah, the first two are really easy. Sales and activity, it's there or it's not. The behavior one's the one which we're probably in our fourth iteration. So we've had this live for 2.5 years now. We're now in our fourth iteration of how does it all come together? And I'm personally been involved with redesigning that with our HR team to go, no, if it's that, you can't get here, etc. So I've owned it. But within that, what we were getting was people, and I've seen it so many times when we've had other strategies of people going, oh yes, I'm really trustworthy because, and everybody can find an example of why they are. But instead we've now flipped that and gone, right, is there one example where you weren't? Let's not worry about all the goodness, because there should be loads of goodness. I don't want to hear, yes, I always communicate really nicely with everyone and therefore I'm trustworthy. What I want to hear is, actually, I fucked up on that one. And actually, I should have passed that to someone else and I didn't. And that for me is the learning. So we've flipped it to kind of go, what's the negative? And let's make sure we're capturing those and learning from them and then improving. So it will always have a level of subjectiveness. But for me, what I like is I know every single quarter, every single member of my team, including myself, because I do it with my chairman, we will sit down and we will have a conversation around these topics. And that is better than I know where we were before, where it's none of us are getting talked about. Just crack on, hit your numbers. And if you hit your numbers, you get promoted. If you don't hit your numbers, you won't get promoted. That was so binary. And actually what I want is people who are winners, but they're team players and they're trying hard. And actually for me, what it does is give me a view on that. And we've got people who are had only three or four people across the whole group who have got the highest performance quarter on quarter, which means they get into our exceptional community. So it's difficult to stay there. But that means we've got people striving for it. And that's great. So yeah, it will have to evolve. For me, these are things that can get stale really quickly. And therefore I don't want to be Ranieri and be like a bit of a tinkering all the time with it. But at the same point, you've got to keep it fresh and relevant, and especially on that part. And that's what we look to do probably every 6 to 12 months. Just challenge ourselves. Is it still right? Do we need to change that language?
I love this. So is this a monthly or a quarterly?
Quarterly. And even that that was a non-negotiable because we weren't doing anything. So it's like hit everyone hard, quarterly, no movement. Over 2-3 years, we've shifted to really it's end of the first quarter, it's a light touch in. Half year, a bigger full one. End of Q3, a light touch in. End of year full. So we still go through the same process, but we don't. It can be an easier, lighter conversation to make sure everyone's on track, and rather than belt and braces and losing lots of time. So again, that's been listening to the team, going, right, Matt, we know you want it. So we're not saying we don't want to do it, but can we evolve it a little bit? Yeah, sure.
I have to ask about your strategy around AI. That's becoming, I just got back, I was speaking at a recruitment conference in Las Vegas last week. And, just even working with our customers as well, that's like the number one topic of conversation. So how are you thinking about AI? How are you investing in AI to make sure that you are leading the change and not being at the effect?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of noise out there. So I think if people want to search, there's probably another podcast from me only a couple of weeks ago where I'm just knackered with AI BS at the moment because
Okay.
everything I'm seeing that was just an automation product is now an AI product, when actually it's an automation
Sure.
product. So I think what you've got to be, there's hype around it at the moment, which is understandable because it is without a doubt going to improve and change things. So, and I think it's in that order. It's not change, it is improve and change. So for us, it's about being curious, experimenting. And we've got a number of programs in the business, which we've had now 12, 18 months where we've got not third-party products. We've been going out and not third-party recruitment products, going out and just experimenting and playing and encouraging people to go, well, what could you do differently? How could that work? Yes, there's obvious back office stuff, but there's also a load of stuff around front office. So we've been experimenting for about 12, 18 months. Some of that stuff is really working. Some of that stuff hasn't. That may have been it was the wrong idea or the wrong execution, the wrong time. So we'll keep playing. We are listening to the market a lot at the moment as to what's out there. We've got one big step actually, which we've got next week, where I'm bringing all of my leadership team together because there's so many options out there, and it's going to evolve at such a pace. I'm a big believer in. I'm not very good as an individual of knowing exactly what we should do for the next 2 or 3 steps, but I think what I'm pretty good at is knowing we should go over there somewhere. Our beacon is here, and I'm good at communicating what the beacon is. I've got some amazing people that can work out how do we get there, and also challenge me to go, well, do you mean just there or up there? And it's like, well, actually, I meant just that way, not that way. So we're having a session next week with all of our leaders coming together, and it's a philosophical session, which some people are going to love and some people are going to freaking hate. But the aim of that is we finish the day with a view around all of our journey from targeting markets through to delivering, because you can look at the back office stuff and say there's loads we're going to do, but I think there's also some real nice front of house stuff as well, and go to market. Out of all of that, what do we feel? Because go back to my daughter's teacher, feeling is important. What do we feel in X number of years' time we really still want a human doing? Where do we still feel that we as a business, which is a choice, it doesn't mean we have to, it doesn't mean technology can't do that, but where do we feel we want human interaction? Because it's either good for the customer journey, good for the consultant development, good for the experience. So we're going to go through and map the whole lot and go, we feel these areas we're really comfortable. If that can be a fully AI functions process so as to speed it along and help all of our teams, both sales and support, go quicker, brilliant. Let's just find it, get it in, get cracking, off you go. You've got our blessing. You may not have our budget yet, but you have our blessing to go off and explore what's out there. Then there'll be another section to it, which will be, we as a business do not want to lose the human interaction there. So actually that starts informing our HR functions, L&D, hiring strategy, development strategy. Cool. If that's always going to be our secret way of working, let's double down on that, make sure everyone we've got in the business is great at that and comfortable with that. And that middle ground becomes something where we challenge ourselves and go, let's play. So I think we have a number of processes in now where we're using it. I got convinced, so I went from cynical to convinced in that Mrs. Wragg is probably the least technical person I know, and I still get thrown the remote control at home if we want to change the channel over. But she came up to me the other day and had taken a picture of our garden and went, that's how I want it to look. And she'd taken a picture, chucked it on ChatGPT and said, I'd like this there, that there. And it came out with a lovely photograph plus a full description of what plants I needed to go and buy. I was like, wow, that's actually really, really powerful that someone who isn't technically enabled actually can do something like that in seconds. And I had another one, someone from our industry, one of my alumni. We were chatting in London the other day, and he was having a moment with his daughter. She wanted to wear something out that he didn't feel was appropriate, and he was a big family argument. So he asked ChatGPT for advice, and he got some brilliant advice on how to manage the situation, how to communicate. They ended up playing kind of a Britain's Got Talent version of What Can You Wear, and he had a red buzzer and a gold buzzer as to approve it, and it turned a horrible family situation into a lovely family situation. So for me, I go, I love it. There's going to be ways for us all to be better. And I would have said earlier, it's a leader's job to help everyone to be as successful as possible. AI is definitely going to play a part in how I can help people in my business to be more successful. We haven't got the secret answer yet. We haven't got it all nailed, but what we have got is that ambition and that understanding of it's going to play a part of it. It's now, how do we experiment with that and encourage people to experiment with that so as to give an even greater service and be even more successful?
I think the way you're thinking about this is absolutely bang on. What you said, there's been a lot of curiosity, experimentation. What would you say has been the most successful experiment that you've then has been widely adopted?
Should I take the camera and show you the garden? No. I think the one really simple one, and I'd be surprised if nearly every agency is not doing this already. We had an issue. We pick up hundreds of jobs every week. That's not the issue. That's a good thing. But actually, very few of those were getting out onto our own website to be advertised. And that was because sometimes it was an old job spec or no job spec or some crappy bullet points or whatever it might be. And actually, I was not top performing, but an okay recruiter. I really hated spending lots of time writing an advert. So yeah, we created a very simple tool, chuck whatever you've got into there. It automatically rewrites the advert, makes sure it's inclusive in its tone. It's got great examples of the customers, and it automatically gets out to my website. And we went from 20% of our jobs being advertised to now we have a world-class basic where everywhere has to be 80% as a minimum. And we're there. So that's then not necessarily meaning I'm filling more jobs via that route, but it's meaning I'm getting more relevant traffic. I'm getting more candidates who are live right now rather than ones which we've known for many years. And over time, that will build and build. So it's a really, really simple but very effective way of recruiters either don't want to write a job advert or are going to spend too long doing it. And now it's whichever side you're on, or if I want to or I don't, it can be done very, very quickly and it does it for you. So simple time saver, which over time, I was at an event with some leaders from the industry the other week, and someone rightly pointed out, we're all playing with this, but no one's productivity is improving. No one's absolutely blowing out the park. There's no economically strong nation around the world which is absolutely flying in productivity right now. So are we all just creating a load more noise of stuff? There is a real strong argument around that, but I can't help but think there will be, if I can put, 15, 20 hours a week back into the diaries of my consultants to spend more time having human interaction with our customers, that's a massive win. And I'll definitely turn every stone in order to find that.
Well said. And look, Matt, I could keep talking for ages. I've asked about 50% of the questions that I had on my list.
But don't give short answers. It's a weakness of mine, sorry.
No, that's good. I'd rather have a detailed, like really in-depth rather than just surface level. So that was brilliant. Matt, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, lovely to catch up, Mark. Thanks very much.
Thank you for listening to The Resilient Recruiter. I know how busy recruiters are, so I'm honored that you're investing this time with me each week. I don't take your attention for granted. That's why I'm going all out to deliver value for you here, real insights you can apply to improve your business. And if you really want to help me to reach a wider audience and impact more people, please consider leaving the show a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you leave me a review, please reach out and let me know so I can thank you personally. Please hit the subscribe button and I'll see you next time.